Well, where do we even start? No, seriously, where do we even start when it comes to this bracket that the committee has supposedly spit out yesterday? I mean, where do we even begin? I'm Chris Pearson, as always. Welcome to the 2016 NCAA Tournament, my gut feeling bracket fill-out edition. This is the end of the tracking of the madness. It's really the end of that, but it's the beginning, of course, of the best 3 weeks in college basketball that we can really ask for right now. And it's going to be a wild and wacky and crazy time. This is going to be probably the hardest to basically predict. It was even hard enough to project the field in itself, but to actually make these picks is going to be the toughest, for me at least, in a very, very long time. So it's going to be tricky. But to start off, let's start with basically, like, again, where do we begin when we gauge the committee on this bracket? Because number one, I hate to start off with this, but I have to say it. For once, Joe Lenardi and I share something in common. We miss the same exact 3 teams. Vanderbilt, which I guess I can sort of understand where, the committee sort of saw Vanderbilt because they kind of, had them coming in strong of late with their big wins down the stretch. But I thought for sure that Vandy was out after the loss to Tennessee in the SEC tournament. I thought Vandy was out, so I was quite surprised when I saw that. Syracuse. I did not expect Syracuse to get into the field. I thought that the game against Pitt was a win, kind of a play-in game for both those teams. So I was definitely shocked to see them in, but apparently the committee really, again, weighed heavily on the quality wins of these major schools and really kind of disregarded everything about the little guys, the mid-major schools. So that's why you see no Monmouth. That's why you see no St. Mary's. That's why you see no St. Bonaventure. And I had Monmouth in the field. I also had San Diego State in the field because I thought they had done, enough to at least get in, winning, running, pretty much almost running the table in the Mountain West and having the one big win over, I believe, Utah or Cal, but they didn't get in. And then I had St. Bonaventure safely. I had St. Bonaventure safely in the field as a 9, but then they just were off the board entirely. The RPI was like 29 or something. Tulsa, for gosh sakes, Tulsa. Nobody had Tulsa in their tournament bracket. Nobody. And even Lenardi said himself today that it was indefensible by every standard that Tulsa is in this tournament field. I honestly could not believe it when I saw that. And Robert, I saw your comment, and I agree with you. It is an absolute joke that Tulsa is in this field. There was no reason. They lost to Memphis, twice? Twice, I think, in a span of 12 days. They lost to a Memphis team who was an RPI like somewhere in the 160s. There is, to me, no reason why Tulsa should be in this field. I hope they lose to Michigan early, and I hope to lose to them bad, because that way they can be embarrassed in Dayton, Ohio, to a Michigan team that I think actually plays well enough, even without Karis LeVert, to be in this field. I had Michigan. I had Wichita State actually also in the field as well. I thought Wichita State had certainly done enough. So I had them in. But my goodness, I just could not believe some of the decisions that this committee made. And also some of the seeding decisions were egregious. How can you not have Michigan State on the 1 line? And maybe, again, the committee didn't really factor in the Sunday games as much, which is a shame also. How can you not have Michigan State on the 1 line when they beat Purdue in the Big Ten final and move them up? And again, and Oregon, I understand Oregon's a good team. I understand that. I have respect for Oregon. But I honestly thought that win put Michigan State on the 1 line. Actually, maybe even win or lose, I would have had Michigan State on the 1 line. But committee didn't see it that way. And the Kentucky-Texas A&M scenario. Kentucky beats Texas A&M in the SEC final, wins that game, wins the SEC tournament, but still Texas A&M goes a seed line higher than Kentucky. What's up with that? I mean, I didn't understand that at all. I was very, very confused on that. Location, that was another big thing I think that was discussed as well. Why is Villanova not? And I guess Villanova could play in Philly in the East. I thought honestly they couldn't, but so everyone's ranting, why is Villanova not in the East region? Why is Kansas in the South region and not in the Midwest? Just a lot of head scratching things. And oh, by the way, can't avoid this rant without talking about the 2-hour selection show. There was no need for that selection show to be 2 hours long. There was no need for that. I just read today on Deadspin that it had the lowest ratings in at least 20 years for a selection show. It's gone from like 4.4 to 4.2 to 3.9, and it was a 3.7 last night. It is the lowest ratings in years. Plus, the NCAA is going to find out about the leaker who leaked the bracket early. I saw that on Deadspin after the first two regions were revealed. And I'm like, oh, never mind to watch it now. Click. Here I go. I got the bracket right here. I can see who's in now. And then I'm like, oh, seeing the teams that were, in that I thought weren't in. But yeah, so a lot of things went wrong with this committee. But we have to take a breath. We have to digest it and say it is what it is. That's what the committee spit out. So unfortunately, then we have to get to it and try as best we can to make sense of this and make predictions. So here we go. This is the gut feeling live breakdown edition. I know a lot of people don't pick the first four, but again, I kind of like to give myself this chance to see, okay, are they going to be a dangerous seed then in the main draw as well? So I look at the first four matchups in Dayton, starting with the South Region game, Vanderbilt, Wichita State. I already mentioned how much I like the Shockers. The combo of Fred VanVleet and Ron Baker is definitely one of the most dynamic 1-2 combos. And I watch a lot of the Valley games. The fact that I go to a lot of the Indiana State games down in Terre Haute, I watch a lot of the Valley this year. So they've always been high on the Shockers. Again, I didn't have Vandy in the field. I don't like the fact that I just think it's too strong. Wichita State, too strong on offense, too strong on defense for me. I'm going to take the Shockers to win that game and then have them play Arizona in the first round. The 16 matchup between Florida Gulf Coast and Fairleigh Dickinson in the East. Hey, Dunk City is back. Even though they're not really Dunk City anymore, it's kind of a more balanced style to Florida Gulf Coast. It's nice to see them get back into the tournament field. Out of the A-Sun. And then Fairleigh Dickinson, I watched their final game against Wagner in the Northeast, and they were very much a kind of grinded out team very much in that regard. But that one, I got to say, though, I think it'd be kind of a shame if Florida Gulf Coast didn't continue on, just because we really know they have that tournament experience. We've seen them before. So I'm going to take them to win that game over the Knights and move on to take on North Carolina. The other 11 seed game in the East, this is the Michigan-Tulsa game. As you already know how I feel about that one. I pretty much clarified that one, that I want to see Michigan just railroad the heck out of Tulsa to prove the committee that move was stupid. So I have Michigan winning that game. Get Tulsa out of there. And then the final 16 matchup, this one is in the West, Holy Cross and Southern. You know what? Holy Cross's run through the Patriot League was definitely impressive. I got to say, they really turned it on when they needed to. Beat Bucknell in a thrilling overtime game. Just blew the doors off of Army on their floor, and then to win the final the way they did. So even though, here's the thing about the SWAC. The SWAC representative to me always seems like they get kind of beaten in the first four in Dayton. They really, whether it's, Texas Southern or Mississippi Valley or whoever, they really haven't, and Southern played well in the SWAC tourney, but I'm going to go and take the Crusaders. I'm going to take Holy Cross there to at least get one more game, and a shot at the Oregon Ducks. All right, so now let's go region by region. Let's start here in the South. Start with the overall number 1 seed. That's Kansas. Austin Peay has been a nice story. Austin Peay had a great run through the Ohio Valley tournament. Great story with one of their players or somebody very close to them is fighting cancer, and that's a great story. But Kansas, too good a team. Usually, again, you always have to mention this every year. The number 1 seeds are perfect in the first round. No 16s ever beat a 1. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, with all the parity, this could be the year it might happen. really, I really don't see it this year. I think if some of the higher, maybe the top seeded teams have won the conference tourneys, then maybe there could have been a good shot at that. But with what we have this year, I don't see it. So I'm going to go and take Kansas there. The 8-9 Colorado UConn. I think really, even though this is an 8-9 game, this seems a bit of a mismatch, at least to me, because UConn, again, has momentum on their side. They just won the American tournament, and this has that kind of feeling of that 7-seed UConn team that really made that deep run all the way to the winning the championship last year. I don't have kind of a Kemba Walker-like player on the team, but the shot that they hit, the Jalen Adams 90-foot shot to beat UConn or to beat Cincinnati and even put them in that situation in the American tournament, and the way Kevin Ollie's coaching his team, I'm quite impressed with UConn. I haven't seen a whole lot of Colorado this year, but they, to me, just seem like, kind of an okay team. The Pac-12 got a lot of respect this year because its teams were very high in the RPI rankings. But I'm going to go UConn here. I really like the way that UConn is playing right now. Maryland going up against South Dakota State. The 5-12s are always the hardest to pick. And with me, Maryland just seems to be like a bit of a head scratcher because, Maryland, Mello, we always hear so much about Mello Trimble and how well he's played, but the team was without Diamond Stone for a while. And then they lost that game to Minnesota. And I don't know what to make of Maryland. I understand they're a good 25-8 record team. I understand that, but here's the thing that scares me about South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits have tournament experience, and I'm going to be emphasizing that a lot in this. Teams with tournament experience, I usually tend to kind of pick those teams to at least win a game or two because they've been here before. They know what the big stage is like. They've been here before. And South Dakota State, either they won a game in the tournament before or they came very close to winning a game in the tournament. They were here last time. So I'm really – and playing out in Spokane, I mean, way out west, I don't really know who that benefits in this situation. I don't really know teams going – that's coast to coast for Maryland. That worries me too. I'm going to take the Jackrabbits. I know it seems bold, but you got to take a few. And I'm just worried about what Maryland team is going to show up. I'm a little bit worried on Maryland. That's why I'm going with the experience here. I'm taking the Jackrabbits here. Cal and Hawaii, another matchup here that some people are saying could potentially be one of these upset picks. And I did watch a little bit of the Big West tournament because I like UC Irvine and I like watching their style of play. So I did watch Hawaii a little bit, and Hawaii is a very good team up and down the floor. But boy, Cal is so talented and coached by a great coach in Conzo Martin, and he's got 2 pro prospects on his team. And I really, really like the way that Cal's been balanced this year in that. So while Hawaii is good, I think really that benefits Cal with that talent they have up and down the roster. I'm going to go with Cal. I know that's a tough one to pick as well, but I'm going to take the Bears on that one. Then I've got Arizona and Wichita State. Again, this is very tempting because again, the fact that I'm so high on the Shockers, I think, and they're playing, and again, the fact that Arizona got sent out to Providence, they're playing here in Providence, and again, that's West Coast to East Coast, and teams that travel tend to struggle. So that really worries me a little bit as well. But again, Wichita State would have to go from Dayton to Providence, but really it's not a bad trip for them. So that worries me. That really, really worries me. And I know that Arizona, again, is a very good basketball team, coached by a great coach in Sean Miller, but I'm tempted again. I'm really, really tempted here to go with the shot. I'm going to go with Wichita State. I think they'll win at least 2 games. I think Wichita State is going to be so driven because of the fact that they lost in the Valley final, or they lost early in the Valley to Northern Iowa. I think they want to prove they want to go further than Northern Iowa does, and I think they want to play with that chip on their shoulder. And with Wichita State, when they have a chip on their shoulder, they usually play really well. So that's why I'm going to go with the Shockers there. Miami and Buffalo, I love the job that Jim Larinaga has done at Miami. And I know the Buffalo, this is their 2nd straight year, but that's not the same team that we saw in last year's tournament. Buffalo had to really hit, I think they hit a last-second 3 to beat Akron, who was the projected favorite to win the MAC. So this is not the same Buffalo team you saw last year. I love the job that Jim Larrañaga has done with Miami. I'm going to go with the Canes on that one. 7-10, Iowa Temple. I can't believe that some people were saying on this one that Temple could win this game. And here's the reason why. And the last time I picked Temple against a Big Ten team, I lost. I missed. And I was really mad about that because I looked back and I said, what the heck was I thinking picking Temple? I mean, because don't get me wrong, Temple's a decent basketball team. They're a good basketball team. They won, they were top of the American for most of the year. But Iowa just has so much talent up and down the floor with Jared Utoff and Peter Jock and Woodbury and the guys they have there and Fran McCaffrey, and he's got plenty of tournament experience. So I'm not going to make that same mistake twice picking Temple against a Big Ten team. I can't do it. I got to take Iowa there. And Iowa won a tournament game handily as a 7 seed last year. So they're in the same boat they were last year. So I'm going to go Iowa. And then Villanova, UNC Asheville, got to go Villanova there. I mean, Villanova's going to win at least one tournament game. They're going to at least win the opener. We all know the feeling that Villanova's going to be a team that Villanova, they're going to crash out early, and people are probably going to pick based on that. But I think I don't see a team like UNC Asheville out of the Big South beating Villanova. I can't see that, especially with the talent Villanova has up and down the roster. All right, so second round, we'll go region by region. So second round in the South, Kansas and Connecticut. Again, this is a very dangerous game for Kansas. As always, for any 1 seed, the 8-9, whoever comes out of that is going to be a dangerous, second round matchup. But here, playing in Des Moines, I think Kansas is too talented. I've got the Jayhawks there beating UConn. South Dakota State going up against Cal. Here again is where I think Cal's, those pro prospects, the veteran leadership there, Conzo Martin at coach, I think that trumps the Jackrabbits experience. So I'm going to go with Cal there. And again, playing in Spokane, I think that helps Cal more than anything. Wichita State and Miami. As much as I would love to take the Shockers here, I just think Miami is so loaded. I think they're such a loaded team. Plays well on both sides of the floor. So I'm going to go Miami there. And then this, of course, is tempting. This is really tempting because, again, when you're looking at Villanova in your bracket, do you base the fact on that they really rarely ever, and at least in a long time, have they made it to the second weekend? Is this the team that's going to trump their recent past and make it to the second weekend? Because Iowa, the thing about Iowa is you don't know what Iowa team you're going to get either. Are you going to get the talented Iowa team we saw earlier in the year that was running roughshod through the Big Ten? Or are you going to get the Iowa team that slumped down the stretch? What Iowa team is going to show up in the tournament? So I certainly think Iowa can hang with Villanova. But the question is, am I confident enough that in Brooklyn, can they beat Villanova on that floor? That's going to be the tricky thing here. Villanova to me does not seem like a team that can make it to the second weekend. It's history, and I can't, and it'd be boring to go chalk. And for me, this is a year really I don't know if you can go chalk in these regions because it'd be boring to go chalk because it's been such a parity-filled year. It'd be boring to go chalk. I ain't going chalk. I'm going Iowa. I gotta have at least one. I gotta have at least one non-chalk in each region. Have to, because it's been a parity-filled year. I gotta have at least one non-chalk. All right, so then regional semis, Kansas and California. That again is going to be a challenge. Kansas got no favors in this bracket. Being the overall number one, that's enough pressure in and of itself. But Kansas got no favors in the South. This South region is loaded. Maybe if not as much as the East, if not a little bit more. This is tricky. But I just think Kansas is so talented. I'm just going to have that team ready. I mean, yes, Kansas has made early exits before, but he's going to have this team so ready. So I'm going to take them here. I'm going to take them to beat Cal. And then Miami going up against Iowa. Here is where I think the bad Iowa's going to show up because Jim Larrañaga is a coach that is going to be prepared for any style of play. I mean, he's been in the Final Four before with George Mason. He's led this Miami team so well. and I think it's going to pay dividends for him here. So I'm going to take Miami to go to the Elite Eight here. And then the regional final, Kansas going up against Miami. It's so tempting to take the Jayhawks. It really is. I think Bill Self's team really, with the talent he has, with the way Kansas plays, and Kansas, even though they're great at home, they always do play well on the road or on neutral floors. They're playing in Louisville, not far from their backyard. They're going to have a big crowd. I just feel like it'd be tough to pick against them. It just seems like they're destined to make it. To me, it seems like Kansas is destined to make it there. I'm going to take them, but boy, Miami. I would not be surprised if Miami beat them in the Elite Eight, though. I would not be surprised at that. If it is Miami, I would not be surprised if that's the case. But boy, that's going to be like a close overtime, grinded out game because Miami's going to be giving Kansas their full arsenal. So, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Jayhawks. Okay, let's go to the right-hand side real quick. I'm going to kind of go counterclockwise here around. So let's go to the East region. North Carolina, Florida Gulf Coast. I don't see the repeat here. Sorry, non-dunk city. I don't see it here. UNC, too talented. They're playing their backyard basically in Raleigh. So I'm going to take the Tar Heels there. USC and Providence. Again, with this one, which of these teams is going to show up? Providence was, again, kind of a hit-and-miss team down the stretch. But they got a talented player, though, in Chris Dunn, who I'm very, very impressed with. USC, really, I was really worried about USC down the stretch. I was worried about whether or not they were going to get in the tournament field because they looked like a very different team down the stretch than what they looked at the beginning of the year. But Andy Enfeld, again, he's got tournament experience. USC has at least that going for them. But I've just been so impressed with Providence, and they're playing in the Big East. I'm going to go with Providence. And I know UNC played Providence before, and they're used to seeing them. But I think that's, again, a very good second-round matchup there for the Tar Heels. Indiana going up against Chattanooga. So, again, some people were saying that this could be a potential upset as well. I don't see it. I think IU's going to, yes, they got upset by Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, but I think they're going to really play with, a lot to prove. I think the fact they got dropped down to a 5 seed when they could have been a lot higher, I think they're really going to come out with energy, intensity. The way Yogi Ferrell plays is he's fun to watch. Just load of talent up and down that roster. Chattanooga, played well in their conference final, played well most of their conference all year, but I don't see it. I'm going to take the Hoosiers there. I think with the East, it's going to be tough not to go chalk here because, again, the East is so loaded. I think the East is the most loaded. It's very stacked. It's a stacked region. Committee to North Carolina, no favors here is the one either. So this is very stacked, but we'll see what happens. Kentucky going up against Stony Brook. I can't envision, Kentucky just won the SEC tournament. And usually when they win the SEC tournament, Kentucky does make a very deep run in the tournament field. So again, Stony Brook's a great story. Stony Brook, this is their first time ever making the NCAA tournament, and that's a great story for Stony Brook. But I really can't envision Kentucky losing that game. I know they're playing at their best. Tyler Eulis is playing at a high level right now. The guys have got there, and Calipari now is all fired up after the committee, in his mind, shafted his team a lower seed. So he's going to be gunning ready to go. So I'll take Kentucky there. Now, this is another interesting one. Notre Dame taking on Michigan. This is, and they're playing here, and they're playing in Brooklyn, so really no home court advantage either way. These are two kind of grinded out teams. These are two teams that play hard, get after it. Again, it's tempting to take the 11th seed here after the way they're probably going to be, beat Tulsa in the opener, and they're going to be ready to go and fired up. But Notre Dame is just so well balanced. Notre Dame's, they can put up points in bunches. I think they can slow Michigan down a little bit. So as tempting as it is to take Michigan there, I'm going to go with Notre Dame there. West Virginia, Stephen F. Austin. This one is tempting as heck because, again, Stephen F. Austin, tournament experience. The Lumberjacks won a game, excuse me, 2 years ago in the tournament when they knocked out VCU. This is so tempting to pick Stephen F. Austin in this game. But here's the problem. They got a bad draw. They got a bad draw because West Virginia is a horrible matchup for not just Stephen F. Austin, but for anybody because West Virginia, A, presses the heck out of you and makes you work for your points, and B, Bob Huggins can coach his tail off. I mean, he is just so experienced. He's got talented players that can do well. Stephen F. Austin, I feel for them because had they probably gotten any other matchup, I probably would have picked them to at least win one tournament game. I can't here. I gotta take West Virginia. I don't really see, considering how loaded this East region is, this is the region where I think we're going to see the fewest upsets because I don't. It's loaded. It's loaded up and down the board. I can't envision a whole lot here. Wisconsin and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh baffles me. I mean, Pitt really baffles me. You know, what team is going to show up? And I know Wisconsin is just as bad. I know Wisconsin is just kind of an odd team too because you have the team that was earlier in the year losing these shocking games. You know, the openings lost to Western Illinois, lost to Milwaukee, lost to, these other teams. But then you had the team down the stretch, the team that Greg Gard took over in the wake of Bo Ryan's shocking retirement. He has to take over this team, and then all of a sudden puts in literally tears him on the stick shift, boom, puts Wisconsin in like a third gear, and all of a sudden they're beating top 50 teams, like 5 top 50 wins, and now here they are in the tournament. And oh, by the way, got the full-time job. So I commend the job that Greg Gard has done with Wisconsin. I cannot figure out Pittsburgh for the life of me. I cannot figure out that team. I don't know what team's going to show up in the tourney and anything other game. I don't know. So, and Pittsburgh's already lost to a Big Ten team this year. They lost to Purdue. So with that in mind, I'm going to take Wisconsin there. Plus they're playing in St. Louis, so it's going to be very red-clad anyway. And then Xavier scares me. Xavier is a very scary team. I love the way that Chris Mack has his team right now. I'm very scared of Xavier, so I'm going to take them to beat Weber State. Second round, UNC and Providence. Again, the key for the Tar Heels in this one is going to be shutting down Chris Dunn. They did it the last time they took on Providence, and it reaped major benefits. UNC won that game. I think it happens again here. Again, they're playing in Raleigh. I can't see UNC losing a game in Raleigh in their own backyard, so I'm going to take the Tar Heels there. The second round matchup that everyone's salivating over, IU and Kentucky. Here's what worries me about Kentucky, though, because everyone I've heard other people talking heads on TV. Oh, now Kentucky's going to make a deep run. Oh, Final Four, Kentucky. Oh, yeah, this is great. And it's like, yeah, okay, they're hot now, but it's like you don't really buy maybe too much into momentum because sometimes the old Kentucky can still show up, and that worries me a bit. And that really worries me a bit that Kentucky team, are they going to be? Are their players going to play at a high enough level throughout the tournament on a high level? And I'm sure they want to play IU. I'm sure they do. It'd be a great second round matchup. Tom Crean, John Calipari, talent on both sides. It'd be a great matchup, and I want to see it. But it's like everyone now talking about Kentucky making this run. I don't see it. I really don't see it. Now, do I think they could beat Indiana? Yeah, I think. Oh boy, this is tough because it depends if both teams are going hard at their high level. It's in Des Moines. You got to think about location. Who's just really at a home court advantage or not really. But Kentucky fans travel well. Oh, this is so tough. I'll take Kentucky. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that one. I really could be wrong on that one. But that's such a tough one to predict. But I feel like Kentucky's going to at least make Sweet 16. I feel like with the momentum that they do have, I think they can at least get there, and we'll see, and then go from there. But that's a tricky one to pick. That's a real tricky one to pick. Notre Dame, West Virginia for me is not a tricky one to pick. I think West Virginia is a very scary team. I think again, the way they press, Huggins style, I think the talent they have there, I think West Virginia got a real easy draw there, and I think they're going to take advantage of that. And then Wisconsin and Xavier, as much as I would love to pick Wisconsin there, and again, to me, they're too hit or miss. They're too random. I know they make deep runs in March before, but gosh, Xavier is so talented. Trevion Blewett, Chris Mack with the coach, they're just so talented. So I know I said that I have to take at least one non-chalk, but in the East, I don't think I can do it. I really don't. I don't see the upsets in the East. I really don't see it happening. I'm going to take Xavier there. I don't think it's going to happen. This region is just so loaded, and it's tough. It's very tough, this region. So then it's going to make it even tougher to pick a winner out of this region. Good grief. Now that I've gone chalk, and it's 1 against 4 and 3 against 2, this is going to be even trickier. Who am I more afraid of? It's like, who am I more afraid of here? And I don't, North Carolina, Kentucky. When North Carolina and Kentucky are both on, when Marcus Page and Bryce Johnson are on their game for North Carolina is very, very good. When Tyler Ulis is on his game for Kentucky is very, very good. When when the switch is on, they're both very good. And they're playing in Philadelphia, which again is more Carolina territory, but again, Kentucky fans will travel. This is so tough. This is, again, I said the committee did Carolina no favors, and that's true. I feel like they really got the worst region of the bunch. I just feel like Calipari is going to have that team playing at such a high, intense level. I'm going to have Kentucky beating Carolina. I'm going to have Kentucky beating Carolina, but I will say this, but I don't think they make the Final Four. I don't think this Kentucky team makes the Final Four. I don't think they will. Whoever I pick out of West Virginia and Xavier, I think is going to be the team that represents this region in the Final Four. And you know what? Something just tells me that Xavier is special. Something just tells me that this Xavier team is going to work so hard, is going to play so hard. And even though, again, West Virginia can frustrate that Xavier team with that style, I feel like Chris Mack's going to find a way to figure it out. I feel like Xavier finds a way to figure tough defensive matchups out. I feel like he's going to be on it. So I'm going to take Xavier there. And I'm going to take Xavier to win the region. Like I said, I don't think that Kentucky team makes the Final Four. I don't think they do. I think something about that Xavier team just scares me, and playing in the East, and I think it's going to benefit them in the long run. So I'm going to go with Xavier. All right, bottom Midwest region. Starting at the top, Virginia over Hampton. No repeat upset by the Pirates here. Sorry. I mean, it was a great run for Hampton. MEAC tournament champs again, second straight year. But again, I've already said this year with the 16 men beat the 1, so got to go with UVA there. Very interesting 8-9 matchup here. Texas Tech and Butler. Butler has always had, Butler's been that team of destiny that had the great tournament runs in the past. The job that the new coach there has done has been very, very impressive, and they've got their share of talent there. And here's the thing, though, with Texas Tech. Texas Tech really struggled down the stretch, and Tubby Smith does have better experience as well, and I applaud the job he's done at Texas Tech. But, boy, losing to TCU in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, that, to me, really hurts Texas Tech's chances. So I'm going to take Butler there. to win that game. Boy, I'm taking all the nines. I really like that. Apparently, I really like the 9 seeds because I'm taking all the 9s here. It seems like I really like the 9 seeds. Purdue and Little Rock. This matchup, honestly, I'm a Purdue grad. I'm a Purdue alum. And I got to be honest, this matchup does scare me a little bit. And I say a little bit. It does a little bit because I watched Little Rock play a couple times this year, especially in the Sun Belt Tournament final. And this Little Rock team makes you work. I mean, they really make you work with the talent they have. They were down to Louisiana Monroe in the first half by I think double digits. I thought Little Rock was going to lose that game to ULM after that first half. And then all of a sudden the switch flipped in the second half, became a completely different team, locked down defensively, forced their guys outside. If Little Rock forces Purdue to go outside and eliminate their inside forces of A.J. Hammonds and Isaac Haas and Caleb Biggie Swanigan, it's going to be a long day. But at the end of the day, I feel like Purdue has enough talent and weapons there to compensate for that. Matt Painter's tournament experience. I can't envision Purdue losing that game, so I'm going to at least put them through there. Now, here's one, and I'm sure some people have said this, but I agree with them. Here's one that I think is going to happen. Iona. I like the Iona Gales. If you have not watched AJ English play, oh my gosh, you have been missing out on a treat. He is a talented player. This is his last go-around as a senior with Iona. It has been an honor and a privilege to watch him play college basketball. The fact that they were able to win the MAC tournament, and oh, by the way, means that whatever they did there kept Monmouth out of the field. So the fact that they beat Monmouth, I think, twice in the regular season and the tournament, so that was huge. It has just been a joy to watch him. And Iowa State, lost first round last year. Lost first round to UAB last year. This Iowa State team, and I know they're talented. I know they got George Niang and whatever. I know they and the coach. I know they're a good team, but to me, they just seem like the kind of team that has kind of taken on new kind of the Big 12 perch of crashing out early every year first. Have you ever noticed that Iowa State now kind of is the team that, it used to be in the 90s and early before Kansas became Kansas. It used to be Kansas was the team we were laughing at making the early exits. It seems like Bucknell and Belmont and Northern Iowa. Remember we were laughing at Kansas? Remember that? Remember we were laughing at Kansas? Well, now we're laughing at Iowa State because Iowa State now seems to be the team that goes out every year. This is a bad matchup for Iowa State because Iona can put up points just as well as the Cyclones can. So with that in mind, I'm taking Iona. This Midwest region, I think, is a lot more wide open than people think. I think the Midwest is potentially more ripe for upsets than, say, the South or the East. I think this one you could potentially find some upsets as well. Again, here's another one. And again, this goes back to tournament experience. Gonzaga. Gonzaga kept their streak alive. 18 straight NCAA tournament appearances out of the West Coast Conference. Kyle Wiltshire is a stud. And I know the matchup they got with Seton Hall. Seton Hall's got momentum on their side. They just won the Big East tournament. Well, good on you, Seton Hall. But Gonzaga, to me, just when they are, Mark Few, when they are on the big stage, they know how to play. I mean, they know how to play now in the tournament on the big stage. They're playing in Denver. They're playing out west. That's Gonzaga country, folks. So with that in mind, I think Gonzaga takes down Seton Hall. Then Utah taking on Fresno State. I'm going to say it right here. I'm scared of Utah. I am another team I'm afraid of. I am dead scared of Utah. You do not want to see Utah in your draw because that Jacob Podol, oh my, I don't know if I'm saying his name right or it's like an accent like Jakob Polschel or something like that. I don't know, but that kid is really good. I mean, he is very talented, and I know Fresno State, again, great run to the Mountain West tournament, won the final, great run, great on him for getting to this point. But man, Utah is a team that just scares me to no end. And they hung with Oregon in the Pac-12, and so I'm going to go with Utah there. Oh, Syracuse, what do I do with you now? Do I really pick you now to beat a Dayton team that at times was good this year? Dayton really again struggled down the stretch. Dayton lost to some teams that I thought were just head scratching. What was it with Dayton that could not beat the lower echelon of the Atlantic 10 at the end of the year, Dayton was really starting to falter. Like, we were thinking Dayton, they made the great run a couple years ago to the Elite Eight. We thought, oh, Dayton, Dayton was going to be this, this big team this year with all these, racking up the wins. And all of a sudden you're losing to the dregs of the Atlantic 10. It's like, oh my gosh, Dayton. Syracuse is going to play with that chip on its shoulder mentality. They know now they're in the field. They're like, okay, it's us against the world now. I got to say it. I think 3 double-digit seeds here are going to win in the Midwest. I'll take Syracuse. I got to commend them then for the job that they did. The committee looked at their quality wins, looked at the fact that they were a different team with Boeheim than without him, and they took that into account. So I'll reward Syracuse here. I'll take them to beat Dayton. And then obviously a team that always scares me in March and should scare you always in March is Michigan State. I mean, you don't bet against Izzo in March. It's kind of a given, but, so I will take Michigan State, obviously, to beat Middle Tennessee in their opening game. Again, Middle Tennessee won the Conference USA. Good on you, but now good luck against Sparty, who, by the way, just won the Big Ten tournament title and got off number 1 seed. Then the second round here, Virginia and Butler. Again, as tempting as it is to take the Bulldogs here, I can't. Virginia, Malcolm Brogdon, too strong for me. I'm going to take UVA there. Now, Purdue taking on Iona. Here's where I think that Purdue defense will really be a big factor. Here's where I think they're really going to try, because Purdue always puts their best defender on the opponent's top scorer. So that means you're probably going to see in this matchup, if Purdue does get Iona, you're going to probably find, say, a Vince Edwards or a PJ Thompson or someone like that, or lockdown defender, or even a Raphael Davis on AJ English. So with that in mind, I think Purdue's going to find a way to eliminate English here, and the guys down low are going to make their impact. And I say here Purdue beats Iona to get to the Sweet 16. Gonzaga and Utah, as tempting as it is here to take the Zags, can't do it. I think here, again, the fact that Utah just scares me that much. I'm going to take Utah there to beat Gonzaga. And then Syracuse, Michigan State. Again, Boeheim's going to be prepared for Tom Izzo. He knows Tom Izzo. He knows the Big Ten system. He knows it's just as tough as what the Big East was and the ACC was and all that. But, again, that Michigan State momentum, too much for me in the end. All right, and then Virginia and Purdue. I mean, let's make sense of this here. They're playing this in Chicago. That's literally Big Ten country, because, oh, by the way, a Big Ten team is in Chicago. It's Northwestern. It's that's Big Ten backyard. So to me, even though, again, Virginia is a talented team, and Brogdon, and the fact that I think this Purdue team to me is just so talented enough to make a deep run in this field. I think at least they make Elite Eight here. I'm going to take them to beat Virginia. They're playing in Chicago. I don't see how you can lose that in Chicago. I just don't. And really, I mean, UVA as a 1 seed hasn't really been, they went out early a couple years ago too, do you remember? So keep that in mind. This one, though, this one right here, this is the toughest to pick right here. This right here, Utah, Michigan State, to me, is the hardest 3-2 to pick. And I know I was really kind of going over West Virginia Xavier. This is multiples in my head, okay? This is, which to me is scarier? Which has a better chance of really playing for the ship? Which has a, do I go with Tom Izzo and his history in March with Michigan State and Denzel Valentine and the talent they have there? Or do I go with the big guy in the middle with Podol and his talented play in Utah? This is tough. I really – I don't want to – but here's the thing with this, though. I don't want to see a Purdue-Michigan State rematch. I don't. I've already seen it once. I don't want to see it again. So for that reason alone, I'm going to take Utah. This, to me, this Midwest region is the most wide open. This one, to me, is wide like an ocean open, okay? This is like, open sesame. This is like wide open. why I have a 5 and a 3 in the region final here with Purdue and Utah. So really, when you think about this one, this is Purdue's big guys and some of their outside shooters and their tough defense against Utah's really talented one player and their inner working parts and their style of play clashing here. As much as I would love to put Purdue in the Final Four, and I believe they do have a team to get there, something about this Utah team just worries me. Something about this Utah team just makes me think, they're going to really go deep. So I'm going to take Utah to win the Midwest. But boy, there's a number of teams that can come out of that region. Utah, certainly Michigan State, certainly Virginia, certainly Purdue. Any of those four that I have in that last group of four, I think could potentially, heck, even if you want to take a real dark horse, Gonzaga or maybe even Seton Hall. There's a number of teams, or maybe Butler will go on a big run again. Who knows? That region is just so wide open. All right, finally on to the West. Obviously, I'm going to take Oregon here to beat Holy Cross. Again, Holy Cross, great run, but the run ends there against the very talented Ducks. Here, though, is where I think I'm going to take my first 8 seed here. You know, I've been picking the 9s. I've been picking UConn over Colorado, Providence over USC, Butler over Texas Tech. Why? Because the teams have looked stronger in recent weeks. But St. Joseph's just won the Atlantic 10 tournament. The Hawk will never die. And I tell you what, even though Cincinnati, talented team that runs up and down the floor, the job that Mick Cronin has done there, I applaud him for that. But Phil Martelli and the job that he has done with St. Joseph's, and this team's been so fun to watch all year, I'm going to take the Hawks here to take down Cincinnati. This is another interesting one. Baylor and Yale. Do remember that, and we all remember last year with the upsets in the first round, that Baylor was a 3 seed, and a lot of people had Baylor going deep in their tournament, deep in the field, and it all ended on one shot. R.J. Hunter, Georgia State, and the coach falling out of his chair. And it was a seminal moment that, I'm sure will be part of One Shining Moment videos for years to come. At least part of the one last year, the highlights of One Shining Moment. But so we're a little bit weary on Baylor because of that. And this Yale team has been, top of the Ivy League all year. They are, they can put up points. They've been impressive. Some people are saying, go with the 12 here and take Yale. I don't know. I feel like Baylor's not going to let that happen again because Baylor remembers that. And I just don't think there's a scenario there where that's going to happen. So I will take the Baylor Bears here. They are playing in Providence, so that does benefit Yale, but I don't see it here. Duke is a 4 seed. That was another one. That's another head scratcher, by the way. Duke is a 4? After, this Duke team has been hurt by bench depth all season, Duke is a 4? I don't know what the committee was thinking there either, but going up against UNC Wilmington, this is again kind of, and they mentioned on SportsCenter earlier today where UNC Wilmington was kind of like, when we got recruited here, Virginia playing at Duke and they didn't take us, so now we got to play them on the big stage. So that was kind of that fuel in the fire mentality. I don't see it here in the first round, though. I think Duke, will go out early. In fact, I'll just say it right now. I have Baylor beating Duke in the Sweet 16 because of that depth concern, for Duke that they don't have. But I don't think they lose to UNC Wilmington. I really can't see that. This is interesting. This 6-11 matchup is really interesting. And again, it's Missouri Valley here on my mind because Texas and Northern Iowa. But here's the thing about Texas. Texas is coached by Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart knows about the little guy because he coached VCU to the Final Four. From the first 4, we remember. From the first 4 to the Final Four, he got VCU there. And Texas, and he's taken that team that was in the dregs and as a mess under Rick Barnes, and he has completely turned it around. He has put that style of that team. It's been more balanced. And Northern Iowa, the thing about Northern Iowa that really worries me is, again, kind of like some of these teams like Wisconsin and Pittsburgh and Syracuse and Iowa, which team are you going to get? Is it going to be the Northern Iowa that we saw earlier in the year that knocked off North Carolina, that knocked off Iowa State, and that won the Missouri Valley Tournament? Or are we going to see a Northern Iowa that suffered 5 bad losses, 5 losses to sub 100 RPI teams? Which team are we going to get in this tournament? So it's just going to be very tough for me to really justify picking Northern Iowa in that matchup because Shaka Smart knows about these teams. So I'm going to take Texas there. And, of course, why deprive ourselves of a second-round matchup between Texas and Texas A&M? Come on. You know we want that second-round matchup. You know we want that. They're rivals. They're in-state rivals playing in Oklahoma City. You know we want that. So Texas A&M, I'm going to take them there as well to beat Green Bay. Oregon State and VCU. I have been flip-flopping with this one in my mind since the draw came out. Both these teams go hard. They've got talented players. Gary Payton II for Oregon State, Melvin Jackson for VCU. There's that style of play, that havoc defense that pressures you and forces you into mistakes. I've been back and forth on it all the while. But at the end of the day, I got to go with the Rams. I like the way, the Beavers had some good wins this year, but I'm going to go at least VCU to win at least one tournament game. I think they stick around for at least one game. And then obviously Oklahoma scares me. Oklahoma scares me as well as that dangerous number 2 seed, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield, what a joy to watch him play. I mean, and I thought the half-court shot that he hit when that happened in the Big 12 tournament, I thought that tied the game or won the game or whatever it was against West Virginia. Actually, I would have won the game, would have beat West Virginia. But no, it would have tied him, sorry. But it's like I thought that went in. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then Buddy Hield's going up on the scorer's table. He's going into the crowd. He's celebrating with the Oklahoma fans. I love that. I love this kid. I think it's a joy to watch him play. And I think obviously that playing Oklahoma City, they're going to beat Cal State Bakersfield in the first round. So I've already got Baylor beating Duke. I already mentioned that. But Oregon going up against St. Joseph's. This is a scary second-round matchup for the 1 seed. This is, St. Joseph's plays with intensity. The defense can be strong at times. But to me here, Oregon playing in Spokane, too talented, too backloaded. I'm going to go with Oregon there. And you know what? It might sound crazy. It might sound crazy. It might sound illogical. It might sound weirdo-feardo. But you know what? I'm going to take Texas. I'm going to take Texas to beat Texas A&M. I can't name a player on Texas A&M's roster. I'm sorry, I can't. And I think someone else made the point on ESPN earlier today. Can you name one player on Texas A&M's roster? I can't. I don't know who anyone is on Texas A&M's roster. And at least I know that Texas is coached by Shaka Smart, and they're a really good team. So I think for that reason alone, I'm going to go Texas there. And as much as I'm sure the country would love this, as much as I would love to see Texas play Shaka Smart's former team, VCU, in the Sweet 16, it ain't going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Sorry. Buddy Hield in Oklahoma, way too talented, playing in Oklahoma City. They're going to find a way to crack that VCU press. I don't think it's going to happen. I will take Oklahoma there. So then in my West Regional Finals, I've got Oregon taking on Baylor. For me here, Ducks, too talented for Baylor. Eventually the run ends. I'm going to take Oregon there. And then Texas going up against Oklahoma here. Again, Shaka, get me ready for it. Get me ready to prepare. But for me, Oklahoma, too much to overcome. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Oregon, Oklahoma. I mean, these are two really good basketball teams, but I just think it would be such a disappointment if Oklahoma didn't get there. So I'm going to take them to get there. You got to have a blend. At least to me, you got to have a blend. So I've got a blend here, the Final Four. I think this is kind of a blend, again, a blend year because of parity, because of, all of that. So at the end of the day, I've got a 1, 2 2s, and a 3. That to me, I think is a pretty good blend. I think that's a pretty good blend of having here in the Final Four. All right, so now time to crown a winner, and this is where it's going to get really tricky. Kansas Oklahoma. Big 12 battle here. You know, Bill Self knows his conference. Kansas has not, you know, they've won 12 straight Big 12 titles for a reason. They know the conference. They know how to compete against these teams inside and out. They know how to work these teams. So, so for that reason alone, you know, they know how to play against Buddy Hield. They know how to, you know, slow him down, shut him down, whatever they need to do. And Kansas fans travel. Kansas fans can turn any site into, you know, Fog Allen Jr. I mean, they know how to make that happen. So for that reason alone, it's going to be tough, but I'm going to go Kansas there. And then on the other side, Xavier, Utah. Trevion Blewett, Jacob Podol. Chris Mack's hard-nosed style, Utah's hard-nosed style. This is going to be, you know, and both these teams have to travel a good distance because Xavier will be coming from the east to go to Houston. Utah will be coming from the west to go to Houston. So really travel not really that big an issue here. I really got to think here of who, you know, who would scare most. Who would be a better, I think, a trickier matchup for the Jayhawks? Who would really, really test? Boy. I'm going to go Utah. I think to me this Utah team is just so well set up, you know, to make a really big run here. And Xavier, you know, could be prepared to shut down Podol, but at the end of the day, I just think this Utah team is going to be really well prepared. So, final, Kansas, Utah. Oh, both these teams compete really hard. They have different styles of play. But you realize Kansas this year is like 13, 15 something wins against top 50 teams. Like Kansas schedules well, plays hard, goes after it every single night. They're the overall number one for a reason. But again, it would be such an odd thing to have the overall number one win in a year where there's so much parity. It would be kind of odd, at least to me. You know, and again, this Utah team, just something about them, you know, whether it's Podol, whether it's their hard-nosed attitude of play, or, you know, the style of play the Pac-12 plays, you know, I just feel like this team is going to catch these teams along its path at the right moment, at the right time, and they're going to take them down. And I feel like this is one of those situations where Utah's going to catch Kansas at the right time. Kansas maybe going to have an off night or two. The stars aren't going to align for them. They're not going to come out and play, the biggest. The shots aren't going to fall, and Utah's going to take advantage. So I think of any year to not pick a number one seed or even an overall number one to win the whole thing, I feel like this is it. So with that in mind, I'm going to make it official. Sometimes you got to go bold. Utah, the Utes are going to cut down the nets in Houston. I know that might sound crazy, but it's been a crazy year, gosh darn it, and I'm going to go with that. In fact, I'll even predict a final score. Because, darn it, that's how crazy this is. But, again, sometimes in bracketology, crazy works. And this year, crazy might just win it. Crazy might just be the thing we're thinking of at the end of this thing. Crazy might be the theme of One Shining Moment, for gosh sakes. One Shining Crazy. There you go. That's how crazy it's going to be. But I will take Utah here by the final score. Let's go. It won't be too high scoring. Let's go 73-68. That'll be how much of an off night it'll be. Let's go 73-68 Utah. All right, so there you have it. It's official, and I always do this because of how confident I am. I always sign it at the bottom. There it is. I always sign it. That way you know it's in stone. We may second guess it later. It'll probably be torn up and thrown away maybe by Thursday or Friday. But for now, that's how I see it. Guys, thank you so much to all of you who have followed me, commented, tracked along with me this crazy ride to get to this point. It is going to be, as I've said in the open, the most fun 3 weeks, this fun end of the month that we can imagine. This is a fun time of year. Enjoy it. Enjoy March Madness. It is what truly makes this tournament great and fun to cover and watch and break down and see why Team A beats Team B or Team C, D, X, Y, Z. This is what it's all about. Enjoy it. Thank you so much for all your comments, all your subscribers that subscribe, the followers, your tweets, whatever. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, enjoy it. Share your picks if you want to. Share your bracket down below in the comment section. If you have any thoughts on matchups, teams that you're afraid of, that you had trouble picking in your mind, who's your Final Four, share. Please share with me down below. I'm sure, Robert, I know you will. Please share with me down below or on the discussion page, wherever. Thank you guys again, as always, so much. As we post on YouTube once it processes as well, if you didn't watch live. And enjoy it. Enjoy the madness. Thank you for tracking along with me. God bless you. Thank you. Enjoy March.